I didn't believe I was enough. And so what that resulted in is me working much harder than I needed to. It was as if overnight I had a new business and I started to attract higher level premium value clients. One of the toughest pills that I've had to swallow in my business is realizing that I looked like, in the eyes of potential clients, customers, and colleagues, like everyone else because I didn't believe I was enough. See, when I launched my business and even during my pivot in 2016, 2017, my dominant thoughts about myself were, I'm not enough, I don't have enough, and there isn't enough. Now, this was happening on the unconscious and subconscious level, but how it showed up in my business was me hiding, me not valuing my value, and me hiding. And so because I was hiding, I looked like other business coaches in the marketplace. There was nothing unique or distinct about me. And in 2016, God was working on began the process of really helping me take my thoughts captive and up level my beliefs about myself. When I finally pivoted from being an executive coach to career coach, and I pivoted from being an executive coach to business coach, I said, okay, God, I'm going to do what you told me to do. I'm going to serve the clients you tell me to serve. I'm going to teach female entrepreneurs about sales. And of course, I'm going to change my website. And he's like, no, you got to keep thebestcareerforme.com. What? How is that going to speak to female entrepreneurs? He said, keep the website, strip the copy, change the copy to reflect who you are speaking to, remove the executives' testimonials, put the seasoned business owners that you worked with, their testimonials up, and go do you. Well, he didn't say go do you. He's like, that's what you're going to work with. Do not hire a creative director to do the rebrand until I tell you to. And so during that period, I really started to work on my mindsets and my belief in myself and in valuing my value. And what I learned is that you don't need a fancy aligned website. You don't need a large list. You don't need a large audience to enroll ideal high ticket clients at the $5,000, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, $25,000 and above level, most in a single sales conversation. That's not what you need. Those are nice to have, and those you will need those to help you scale in the future, but you don't need, they're not like absolute necessities, right? They're not they're not essential. What you do need is to value your value and have belief in yourself. And one of the easiest ways to position yourself to attract those type of clients is what I call authentic, empowered empathy. Let's break that down. Authentic, being real, i.e., being human, being a person who sells to another person. Authentic, empowered empathy. So the authentic is being real. And what I discovered through being on podcasts, on one podcast that generated $42,000 of sales, being a guest on a virtual summit that generated $12,000 client in a single sales conversation, and other type of guest, being a guest expert on someone else's audience, was that me being real and sharing my story and sharing my mistakes and my fears and my doubts and my successes and how I think is what distinguishes me and positions me so that I am not viewed as like everyone else. In fact, one of the things that like 99% of clients who've worked with me has said, Althea, I've worked with other business coaches before to help me with sales. In fact, I've worked with other Christian business coaches. And so what makes you different? How do I know you are who you say you are? And then I said, let me ask you a question. Are you afraid that I will sell you something and you will buy something else? And they'll say, yes. And I said, that's happened to me. I remember buying a program, but being sold something else. And I ask a ton of questions. So I asked a lot of questions, but I discovered I didn't know the questions to ask. And they said, I wasn't really worried. I just wanted to hear your response because I could tell from your YouTube videos that you were genuine, i.e., I was authentic. I was real. I was human. So, position strategy that will separate you from others in your field and let those who are looking to invest in your products and services know you are the one is be real, be authentic, share. So let's go to the second part. Remember, it's authentic, empowered empathy. And when do you use this? Use this everywhere. And your ability to use it everywhere begins with you valuing your value and knowing in your ether that you are enough, you have enough, there is enough. So empowered empathy. This actually was given to me by a client who says, that's what you do, Althea. You offer empowered empathy. I said, tell me more. Well, first, from taking the skills finder, empathy was one of my top skills. So, hearing people say that I'm empathetic and that I see them, and people saying, thank you for seeing me in a way that I've never been seen. Thank you for hearing me in a way I've never been heard. That wasn't uncommon for me to hear, right? But I didn't realize until hearing from other people's compliments that this was a strength that I could leverage and lean into, again, to position myself where more people bought from me. And why would more people buy from me? And why will more people buy from you when you lean into empathy? Because people don't care what you have to sell until they feel that you care about them, right? It's like, do you hear me? Do you see me? Do you understand where I'm coming from? Until you're able to demonstrate that, not only in words, but in real action, no one's going to buy from you, right? So let's talk about the empowered part. My client said, because you hear where I am, you see where I am, but you're not sitting there like wallowing. It's like you're empowering me to move forward, right? So authentic, empowered empathy is being real, acknowledging where people are and saying, listen, I've been there too. I get it. We're not staying here. I'm not letting you off the hook on what you desire to do, what you desire to have, and that I know and you know you're able to do, right? It's letting them be seen and heard, and we're not staying here. And all of this is what I say is necessary. This is necessary. This is a requirement when you want to position yourself to be the obvious choice for those who you're called to serve. And it requires you to not hide. Woo! Man. It's easy for me to share now, but not so long ago, I remember the fear and the anxiety of sharing the real me on the internet. Like, I could share it with my private clients or my group clients or in master classes or on podcasts, but it just felt different sharing it with you in this capacity. But God. And so it was a pill for me to swallow, a hard pill for me to swallow, to realize that I was getting in my own way. I was getting in my own way because I didn't believe that I was enough, I had enough, and there is enough. So if you want people to buy from you in a single sales conversation, and not just people, right? We're talking ideal high ticket clients who you know you can help, who pick up what you lay down, who do the work, who are grateful, and who love investing in themselves, who believe in investing in themselves, and are ready to pay you. Then using this strategy of authentic, empowered empathy is something that you're going to want to embrace and implement into your business. And it begins again, I didn't say this before, it begins with identity, which is, we know a part of identity is your beliefs and your mindsets and your thoughts, right? So here's your invitation to believe in yourself and stop getting in your own way unconsciously or subconsciously. No one took my business seriously until I did these 5 things. And when I did these 5 simple things, it was as if overnight I had a new business. I got a completely different reaction and response to my business. And I started to attract higher level premium value clients. And they were easier than I thought once I did them. So if you've thought to yourself, I want to attract premium level clients, I want to attract a higher level client, I want my business to be taken more seriously, here are 5 things that I did that you can consider doing. The first one was I stopped accepting pick my brain invitations. Let me ask you, have you recently received a text or a DM from someone you've known from a long time, maybe from high school or college, or maybe someone who just met at a networking event who wants to invite you for coffee to pick your brain? Those are always hilarious to me. Well, I don't get those anymore. I used to get quite a bit. But when I stopped accepting them, right? I stopped saying yes to them, knowing what they were leading to. Even if someone said, I want to meet you for coffee and I'll drive to where you are to meet. if they weren't framed as pick my brain, but I knew exactly what they were. When I stopped accepting them and stopped acting like that was okay, that my business services, my knowledge, my expertise that had helped clients generate millions of dollars in profit was the value of a cup of coffee or a lunch, I stopped receiving them. And so what I did when I still received them, when I made a decision, this is not okay. Why am I acting like this is okay? I would respond like any other serious business owner who received someone who was inquiring about their services. So if someone said, hey, I'd love to meet for coffee. I have a few things I want to share with you and get your opinion on them, I would respond and thank them for their interest in my services and then direct them on the next step that they could take to learn more about my offers and hiring me. I got to tell you, this decision I made, which of course started with me valuing my value and respecting myself and taking my business seriously, it was like overnight or almost overnight, I stopped receiving these type of invitations. So that's the first thing I did. And man, I don't miss those at all. The second thing I did was I stopped attending networking events where my ideal prospects didn't hang out. I mean, I can remember driving to a networking event and being there and it being okay. I mean, I'm an extrovert. I like to socialize, but I'm looking around and being like, why am I here? Like, I know that my ideal prospects aren't here. Whether it's the person who's speaking or just the environment, I know that they're not here. Why am I doing this just to say that I'm doing this? When I stopped really wasting time and just doing things to do things, but instead said, let me be intentional. Let me make sure that I'm showing up where my ideal prospects are gathered in large numbers. I started to take my business seriously. And guess what? People started to take my business seriously. And I didn't miss out on anything. The third thing, which is somewhat similar but different, is I removed myself from online communities and online networks where, again, my people weren't hanging out. And one of the key signs was that I removed myself from groups where the dominant sentiment, if I'm saying that right, was to complain and have self-pity instead of it being an environment where there was learning, growth, transformation, wins, celebration. I just removed myself from these groups instead of feeling like I needed to be in these communities. And I had remembered when I pivoted my business from executive coach to business coach and was focused on serving believers, I joined a handful of Christian Facebook groups. I don't know if it was advice on a coach, and I say that because I'm not big into Facebook groups. There's 3 Facebook groups that I'm active in my perspective, right? And so I was in these Facebook groups, and at first it was exciting. It was like, wow, there's all these female entrepreneurs, these believers, who are doing business. This is exciting. And I'm not saying this is true for all female entrepreneur Christian Facebook groups. Hear what I'm saying, not what you heard. I just found myself in a lot of groups where there was like a lot of whining, a lot of complaining, and it just wasn't my space. It wasn't a place that I would want to hang out offline. So why was it hanging out online? And it definitely was not where my ideal prospects, collaborators would be hanging out. So I said goodbye and removed myself. You can see the theme, right? For the first three, this was an inside out transformation. Once I took myself and my business seriously, then I noticed the outside results. I mean, first of all, outside results in terms of how I felt about myself and how I valued myself. And then it trickled down to me attracting more of the people that I was called to serve, higher level, premium value clients. So the last two things that I did is, this one, man. I stopped taking advice from people who had never been in business for themselves. You know, before I would find myself listening to people who had pretty outstanding corporate careers, giving me advice and feedback as an entrepreneur and a small business owner, which is a totally different realm of experience, a totally different way of operating in business. And so instead, and I don't receive these anymore because I've changed, I would hear someone's advice or recommendation, and then I would respond with, thank you for your feedback. Because I made the decision, let me take the advice and the feedback from coaches and mentors who are where I desire to be, who've been where I am, who've crossed on the other side, and I've now invested in them, or really invested in myself through their offer. Let me focus on what they have to say. And so, again, I stopped taking their advice and I would listen until I no longer wanted to listen, and would respond with, thank you for your feedback. Listen, I want to know which of these five, before I tell you the fifth one, which of the five you have done and had similar results, or you need to do. That is, if you desire for others to take your business seriously and you want to attract those premium value clients who love to pay in full. And the most important thing I did in terms of generating more sales, making more money, doing what I love to do in less time and with more ease was I raised my fees. I raised my fees without apology. In fact, I remember in March 2020, before the world shut down, I 3x'd my fees. And to reflect the results and the transformation that I had helped clients produce. And in raising my fees, it was a way for me to remind myself that I am the business owner who enrolls clients of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 and more in a single sales conversation. So I raised my fees and I showed up as the business leader that God created me to be. So let me know which of the five most resonated with you, most spoke to you. Now, it might have been like an ouch an amen in terms of you have felt that you wanted to do one of these 5 changes so that not only you can take your business more seriously, but other people can take your business more seriously, and you can attract the premium value clients who love paying you for in full. Or maybe it's Althea, I did the same exact thing, and maybe you're saying, like I said to myself, why didn't I do it sooner? Into that. If you want to know the 7 biggest money mistakes that female entrepreneurs make, if you're wondering how you can raise your fees without feeling guilty and like you need to overwork, then make sure to grab this free training. You'll get instant access plus a bonus workbook. Just go ahead and click on the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when we release a new video. Then click the TV to watch the next video. Go to altheamcintyre.com to get your free training on the 7 biggest sales mistakes that keep you from 7 figures.